Well, it said it started the stream. OBS says it started. Um, I don't know if OBS started the stream yet. Let me go ahead and check to see if OBS started because I need to make sure before I do anything. Let me see. Let me see here. Okay, so the stream has started. Okay. So, hey, what is up, everyone? It is Lightning4554 here, and today I am doing a live stream. It's been a while, I know, and I've been like not uploading for a while. I haven't been uploading for a while because I felt that I really didn't really want to continue YouTube. YouTube was always more like of a hobby to me, and then than actually anything serious. So that's why I never decided to really like continue the gaming thing. Plus, I've just been enjoying myself so much more with me just composing music, because music has always been a huge part of my life, and I've always had a passion for music, if that's what you like call it, like a passion for music, and I feel that as if I feel like music has always been there to help me through like rough times, because music is something that you can use to express yourself very well and very freely, and that's why I love it so much. So anyway, besides talking about all that, I'm going to start off with saying that thank you for joining the stream, and let's get right into it. So basically saying, this is like a rough sketch of a, sorry, let me zoom this out a little bit. So this is a rough sketch of a song that I'm going to be working on, a composition as you will call it, that I made and put together. So I'm gonna let you listen to a little bit of it. So I'm gonna be quiet. Alright, so that was basically the summary of like the outline that I have. I am working on a lot of things, and also please do not judge the sound of the instruments, because the sound of the instruments, I don't have any paid libraries. So if you actually heard the part of the woodwinds, of like the wind instruments like the flute, you would actually hear that this isn't a very good it's not a very good orchestral library, as I should call it, because of how this is free for anyone to get. Anyone can get this. And I just realized that these are both unsustained. I don't know why that is. These should be on expressive vibrato, because expressive vibrato helps you to express more emotion. So look, listen. So as the vibrato continues, it gets stronger and stronger, and it also allows you so you can see how well it functions, how loud the instrument gets is very dependent on how good the sound is. Wait, what did I just say? Okay, never mind. That the flutes sounded more like of a pipe organ than they did of flutes. So look, I'm going to, if you just heard a pop, don't worry, that's normal. The only thing is because I clicked pause the stop button twice, so it makes a pop sound, so to like cut everything else off. So don't worry if you think that that's something with audio issues. It isn't. Anyway, I'm gonna show you guys the melody. I'm still working on the melody because I still don't think this melody is that good. I still feel like it can use a lot of work, which it really can, and I really do feel like the melody can go somewhere. But this melody is what I've been sticking with since this is the I think the third one I wrote. So I've been sticking with this one because I like it more than all the other ones that I've done. Well, that is the melody, and the melody is basically made so that's in the C major scale, so that's on naturals. If you know things about music theory, or if you know anything about music in general, these are violins, and they play in the higher register, so this is their full range. Let me go find it. This is the lowest note they play. The highest note they play is, well, the highest note that these libraries play is up here. And then we move on to the violas, which they're playing a chord progression that I made. They're playing a part of it. So that's like half of a chord progression that I've done. The chord progression that I've done was these 4 bars right here. These 4 bars right here is the main chord progression that I did. Those are the 4 bar. That is the 4 bar chord progression. It's set. You can see that there's 4 right here and 8 right here. These are exactly the same pattern, except instead of these 2 going down, these 2 go up in this one, so that's why it looks different. But don't worry, it just gives it more of a like a hopeful feeling when it keeps going up. Look, listen. So as you see, when it goes up, it has this sense of hope emerging from it that you don't get when it goes down. Because when it goes down, it sounds like it's just gonna repeat again. But when it goes up, it makes it have a sense of hope. Now I know that you guys heard in the beginning, and in the middle of the song. Well, I shouldn't really keep saying song. In the middle of the project, that you guys probably heard this solo. So if you guys heard the solo in the beginning, this solo is one of the things that took me the longest to do, because the solo, I wanted something emotional yet that also fit the chord progression. You may be saying that this doesn't fit the chord progression though. It actually does. Thing is that it elongates the chord progression. You see that, you may have noticed that this is as long as the chord progression. Look, if I were to go to this part right here, to right here. So this is the solo, and this is the chord progression. This is not the normal chord progression, by the way. You can see, if you look close enough, you actually see that I have split up the chord progression into separate parts and then stacked it on top of this, because the chord progression normally looks like this, which it's not the same. It's not the same because reason why is because the chord progression went too fast to fit the solo, and that is why I decided to chop it up right here so that it actually fits with the solo, because the solo itself is not a representation of the chord progression. It is a representation of the main chord progression, because the whole chord progression goes up and then goes down and then goes back up. So if the solo was to do that, it would feel too quick. It would feel too quick and the emotion will be lost. It will feel too rushed. So imagine imagine this solo right here. This is being played on a harp instead. Imagine this solo right here. Imagine it being speed up by twice. Imagine it being speed up by twice its speed. So that would be 200. Look, so this is how it would sound like if it was an 8-bar chord progression. It feels way too rushed, but that's why when it's added, that's why I decided to make the chord repeat twice, because if the chord repeated twice, I knew it was gonna help. I knew it was gonna help make the whole solo sound better. And when the whole solo sounds like this, it sounds like this now, and now it sounds a lot more emotional than what it should be. And so that the part at the top, also known as the melody for the solo, that was also a tricky thing to do. That was a tricky thing to do because of how I didn't want the same melody as the entire song, because then I don't think that would really fit. And I felt as if it needed more than that to fit. It needed a whole new melody. And the next, in my mind, I decided, why not write 4 different melodies that all say the same thing, which is what this solo is doing. These little parts up here, this is the melodies. These are the melodies. And if I were to solo them out, I'm not gonna do that right now because that would be complicated, and also I run the risk of losing the progress of the chord progressions down here. And so and so basically saying that it would not be the same if it were to have the same melody throughout the whole solo. The whole solo needed its own four melodies because look, this is kind of like a chord progression on its own that just repeats twice. The chord progression may not sound interesting. It may not sound interesting. Look, so this is what it's going through. It plays that. The solo plays that, and then it repeats it twice. So I was like, then what is it that I can do in order to make something very nice and sad come out of it? And so I decided to add its own melody for every one. This one fits with this one because of the note it starts on. Because this note is the same as this note, just that they're both in different octaves, also known as different levels. And basically, that ends up helping the solo to move forward. Because of how then in this part, the note it starts on is the same as the note up here. But you'll see that it's not the case throughout the whole thing. Because right here, this doesn't start on the same note, but yet it fits because of the chord. So look, here's the chord that is being played right here. I'm going to play it the non-extended form. I'm going to play it just the regular old form. You're playing a G, you're playing a B, and you're playing an E. Which, if you were to actually think about it, that's actually just an E minor. Just that the G is moved down an octave. So basically, you get this, and next guess what? An E minor fits very well with the C, because if you have, I'm going into a little bit of music theory here, because the E minor, technically, it's part of the C major as well. If you just take these two notes, remove the B on the top over here, and switch it to a C right here, you get a C major chord. C major chord. But the reason why the C works so well with the E minor chord is because of how, look at C major 7. Look at all the notes it uses. It uses E minor with the C as well. But technically that's not how you're supposed to look at it. You're supposed to look at it as a C major with the 7th degree of the scale. And basically, it is going to be so that now it works with the solo. That is my favorite thing that I actually did. I did that so well that I am proud of myself for doing it, because of how I knew that this solo was going to become something very, very nice. And I'm going to stop talking about the solo for a second and start talking about other things. I'm going to start talking about certain sections. I'm going to start talking about, okay, I'm going to move on to the percussion section, because percussion, I didn't really do much with the percussion. Percussion doesn't really do much anything special. Take a listen for yourself and you'll see that the percussion doesn't do anything. Keep in mind, you're going to be hearing a lot of nothing. You're not going to be hearing much. So, yeah. So basically, the percussion doesn't really do much. It really doesn't, because of how this isn't really how I want the percussion to be. To tell you the full truth. Plus, if you actually hear the percussion with the whole instrument, with all the instruments, you actually will end up saying that the percussion is a bit too loud. Specifically, the bass drum is a little bit too loud. No, not because it has too much bass in it. No, because of how it's really loud. Listen. So I've just opened up my mixer here. So basically, if you were to take a look at the mixer and look at how I have arranged it here, it actually is arranged in such a way that everything is labeled just the way I like it. And also, I have actually added groups to everything except for percussion, because percussion, I didn't add so many instruments to percussion that I needed a whole section for it. Anyway, I have percussion 1, 2, and 3. There's no 1 on this one because, of course, that's the first one. Percussion 1 is cymbals. Percussion 2 is snare drum. Percussion 3 is the bass drum. The bass drum, if you would see, it actually has a delay on it, but the delay is not really as much as what you think it is. And I also have some plugin fattening up the sound of the bass drum as well. So you take a listen to that again. Oh yeah, another thing I want to get into is that the percussion has huge gaps in it. Yeah, you see right here? The percussion was the last thing I was thinking about. I was mainly thinking about when I was doing brass, but we'll get to brass in a minute. The percussion was the last thing on my mind. So of course I didn't fully do everything. And yeah, I know you, this is called me composing live, because technically I am composing. Thing is that I have everything ready to make the full song. Thing is that I haven't added everything yet. Right now what I'm doing is what we call in composing structuring the song, like building it up and then things like that. So if you ever have listened to EDM, rock and roll, any of those kinds of music, you will always hear that there's always like a build up, a climax, a resolution, and there's also always an intro. And these things is what makes up the music, is what makes the music sometimes interesting, because for certain points of the song, right here is the intro. This is the intro. This is the the rising, like the rising action, like let's say this is like a story, like in language arts or something, and then next, you know, I don't go to a climax. I don't go to a climax. I go back to something of some kind of an intro. I decided to do that because of how the harp needed a place for its solo, but it also worked because now I have something that can like adds a little bit more suspense, because you don't know what's coming next. You don't know what's coming next, and plus there's a pause in this. Look, I'm gonna play this, and you're gonna see that there's a pause right here. So you see that there's a pause, and it's actually not that big of a pause, but it is a pause nonetheless. And that pause does create like some kind of tension that is rising and building. Sorry, I'm drinking water right now. Okay. And that pause will create tension for you so that it actually becomes part of the rising action, that pause. because you don't know what to expect. Another thing that you can't expect is when you're composing. Another thing you can't expect is that when you're composing, you can't always have a immediate climax, especially since this is just like around a minute into the song. If you actually take a look, technically my song should be already finished. It's already reached the 3 minute and 30 the 3 minute and 30-second mark. And most songs nowadays are usually just around they're usually around 2 minutes and 30 seconds or less, if it's a short song. So basically saying it's like 2 minutes to, let's say, 6 minutes, because I've seen some pretty long songs that have gone 6 minutes before. And so that is what I have gone for. I don't go for the 6 minute mark. I go for whatever length my heart desires. I added that to help. I used all the time I have to help make a story. My music is not for like movies. I mean, they can be used for movies. Thing is that I mainly use my music to help create a story in your mind. That's why whenever I always go for a certain theme. Like, let's say if I were to ever go for an outer space theme, I would go for a lot of delay, a lot of like reverb, so like you get like spacious stuff, and like I would also use a synthesizer in order to help create the atmosphere for it. Of course, this isn't a space thing. No, this is actually supposed to be a kind of revolution. Yeah, like if something happened and like kind of like how in like a war there's always like fighting, but this is supposed to be like, when you hear this, you're supposed to think in your mind of a war that has been going on, and then the war has passed, and now the country is victory. The country that we all wanted for it to win is now victory. And that is what I have decided to go for. And speaking of how I said synthesizer before, I have one right here. You may have seen it. It's the odd one out. It's the only color here that is not belong to anything. You see, red belongs to strings, purple belongs to woodwinds, green belongs to brass, and then orange belongs to percussion, and blue belongs to piano and harp. But the odd one out is right here, this sub bass. There's some reverb and a stereo tool that I have that will allow me to make it wider, so that it gives it more depth. I added this to give the strings more like a more warm feeling. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna solo the strings, and you probably, if you have good enough headphones or good enough speakers, you will hear the sub bass. You will hear it, and I guarantee you that the sub bass does warm things up a lot. I'm just making sure that I have everything that I need for this. I'm gonna turn on violins as well. I'm gonna get into this in a second. Okay, so you were probably able to hear it. Most likely you were able to hear the sub bass. The sub bass, I added it with the double basses because the double basses, they're a low instrument. So I decided to give it to them. the lowest note the double bass can do is this, which is amazing because of how the double basses that I are here to add the low end. But then double basses can't do it. I can't do the whole job. So I decided to go ahead and add this. This is 3x oscillator, and this is an oscillator. This is a synthesizer that I have because it came with FL Studio. So when I purchased FL Studio, I really didn't want to use many of the plugins built in, but I found a video on YouTube, what you're watching the stream on right now. I found a video and they explained to me saying that a good way to make warm strings, like a warm feeling in the string section, is to add a sub bass, and that they were using this plugin. They said that it came free with FL Studio when you purchase FL Studio. So I decided, hey, why not give it a try? So this is what it sounds like when you play up on the higher end. Yeah, well, of course, that's not really the real sound of it. The only reason why it sounds like that is because I came over here and added a envelope to it, so it's like eases in and eases out like a string. So like it doesn't immediately go ba-da-da, so it doesn't go like that. So now it slides around. So look, so now if I play it lower, so you will see, if you actually have good headphones, or if you decided to do like a different thing and look up here, you will see that there is a frequency going on. But thing is, I've turned it down so that it only brings out the low end. I have opened up a span here, and span is a frequency analyzer, so you can actually look. So whenever anything is up here, that means that it's very high. When everything is over here on the left, that means it's very low. So right now I'm going to play the 3x oscillator by itself. So you can see in the span. So you take a look in span and see its frequency. Okay, so basically saying, if you were to take a look, the 3x oscillator is doing a good job of like showing this. Okay, hold up. I'm gonna pause that real quick because that is taking up my CPU. And the thing is that it brings out the low end. Because look, if I were to, let me close this out, and I'm gonna put in the double basses and just take out the sub bass, so you can see so you can see what the double basses do on by themselves. So as you can see right there, the lowest part is frankly around 60 right here, if I'm correct. Yeah, like around right here. So like its lowest thing is like around 30 or something, but it's not even, but you really don't, it really doesn't bring that out because of all this up here. It's like clogging up everything on the top is clogging up the bottom, so you don't really hear the bottom frequencies. But when you add in the sub bass, it brings it out more. As you can see right here, look at that. And so the sub bass really does add some kind of a warmth to the sound of everything. So that's why I have been using it ever since, because I realized that it works and that I should be using it if I'm going to make my strings sound more, how should I say, like more warm feeling, more of like a thing, you know? I don't get it. And I also realized that sound was a big thing, and when I say sound, I mean like the sound of the instruments, not the sound of like issues like with like issues with like quality or like popping in the sound. That's not what I mean. If you go to the string group here in the mixer, you will see all these effects. You will see sound gauger, you will see fruity stereo enhancer, you will see an EQ, and let me raise this up a little by a tiny bit, and you'll also see an ambient reverb. And even pull this back a little bit. Okay. So if you're wondering what each one of these do, basically saying the ambient reverb just makes it so that it has more space inside of it. The EQ right now, what it's doing, this just makes it sound like, makes the string sound brighter. It makes the string so sound more like how should I say, more vibrant in their high-end sound, which is why I use it. And then stereo enhancer, it's a small plugin, but stereo enhancer helps it helps you like figure out which way to put the thing. And they have it actually has a string plugin, which is what I used, and then I tweaked it a little bit. And then sound gauger, I have it at full, which is why you see it's so low. And I have it on the C, which the C one brings out most stuff. And sound gauger does make a difference. So look, I'm gonna play the violins, and I'm gonna like turn on and turn off like this, the sound gauger, so that you can see what difference it makes. So if you were paying attention, the sound gauger, yeah, it does make the volume go higher, like it makes the volume louder, but it doesn't, but that's not what it's really meant for. It does that because of how it's a compressor. It's like it acts kind of like a, it kind of acts like a gain boost sometimes, but what it's actually meant to do is supposed to like help the sound like become clearer, like a clearer, brighter tone, which is what I'm trying to get with my strings. I've also added it on my woodwinds, and I've also added it on, actually, no, I don't have it on the brass. I have sausage fattener on the brass, though. Sausage fattener looks like this. And these dials are for, like, making the sound, like a bigger, better sound. So I'll, play a trombone thing here. A trombone, so actually these are two trombones that are actually playing. Of course, another thing that you need to keep in mind is that these are like free, so if I were to have a paid version, I probably wouldn't need to put this as many effects, but it probably would also sound a lot better too. This is a tuba. You probably heard it blast on the E right here. That's mainly why I decided to use tubas as well, because the tubas would add some more stuff. And you may be saying, why is the brass sound so quiet? It really isn't quiet. It's more of just because of how their background, the tuba and trombone are backgrounds along with horns and things, and the trumpets are the ones taking the melody. Now, if I were to get a better orchestral library, these sounds will be much better, and you would probably like this a lot more. However, sometimes using free things can also help you with the paid stuff too, because then if you use free things before you ever actually get paid things, I've actually realized that if you ever have anything that is like for, let's say, like for composing, you have the best skills. You have the best skills that you'll ever get. And the only way that you ever get these skills is by starting out somewhere. A lot of people have actually started out with free orchestral libraries, or with just some cheap ones that may not sound so good, but just some cheap orchestral libraries that really do help them like get started on it, which is basically what you're supposed to do. You have to start out somewhere. You can't just you can't just be there. You can't just be in the, I don't know how to say it, but you can't be the best person at composing or making anything without starting out somewhere. I'm starting out with free things, and you have to do quite a bit of work with these plugins in order to make them sound good. And the way that you make them sound good is just by using a lot of effects and mixing tricks. And these tricks and effects, these will always be a good thing to have if you ever need to do them again. Because most of the time, you have, let's say there are some people that are professionals. They buy an orchestral library, and then they say, it doesn't have the sound that they advertised. Well, the reason why it doesn't have the sound that they advertised is because of how the sound that they advertised was edited and mixed and mastered by professional composers, and by them, in order to make it sound better. But it also shows you the power that it also shows you like the power that the library has. And the library itself isn't the problem. Most of the time, it's just the person using the library. So if you don't know how to really use the library, then you're gonna be stuck. You're gonna be stuck, and you're gonna be saying, looking at yourself, saying, I knew I had some problems. Thing is that because of how you started with free libraries like this, that actually means that you actually have more freedom to do more things. Because then, as soon as you get good with using the free stuff, as soon as you use the free stuff, you can move on to the better things and then make them sound even better, which is what I'm doing. Okay, so this is the EQ for the woodwinds, as it says up here. Fruity EQ to woodwinds. What it's doing is boosting up the low end, so I get more low end on the woodwinds, and then boosting up a little bit in the high ends, just like the violins and strings, so that you get more, I don't know how you say this, like more liveliness out of them as well. There is an EQ on the brass, mainly to fatten up the middle, which is where I need more. The sausage fattener helps it to fatten up the sound even more, and then the ambient reverb, of course, just to make space. to make it sound like they're in a room, not just inside my computer. So the harp was a different story. The harp actually, it actually has this thing that does whenever it plays. Whenever you play it for long enough, the harp always has this like sound to it. And the sound got more enhanced when I put safe reverb and safe compressor and sound gauger, and these three right here. They didn't boost up the sound. The sound was always like this, but the thing is that they made it so that I actually was able to see it up here, and so that then when I came over here to span, I also saw it. So I'm going to show you what that sound is. I'm going to take off the EQ, and I'm going to show you myself. I'm going to show you what it is. So just take a look at span real quick, and you'll see for yourself. You'll see for yourself how like what sound I'm talking about. And if you have good enough headphones, you'll probably hear it. Wrong thing. It's right here. Alright, so you saw that, right? Take a look again. Right here. You saw it's like right here in this little area. So what I had to do in order to get rid of that sound, it wasn't very hard, but I should say that because of how this is also a free plugin, of course I had to do something with sound. Of course I would need to do something with sound. So what I did is basically I came over here and I did the slightest ever high cut to it. So as you saw, the most of the sound is like between this and this. So this line right here and this line right here, and I am going to tell, and I'm going to and you see here that it also shows you that this is where the sound was coming from, in this area. And so I cut it off, I cut it away, and now it's not there anymore, which is amazing because of how I don't want it to be there, because then if you have good enough headphones, you'll have that high-pitched noise, like that sound that you normally get, like if your audio is bad. So I have been here for a while. Let me check on time. I have been streaming for 50 minutes. Well, I'm gonna take another 10 minutes to make it to an hour, okay? So I said that I was gonna talk about something later, and I finally remembered what it was. This pattern right here, cello number 3, which if you take a look at my this is my all the instruments that are loaded up right now. You see pianos up here, and then the red, remember, it's strings, purple, woodwinds, green, brass, and then blue and orange. Blue is things like the piano and harp, then orange is percussion, and then this dark purple is the sub bass. So now everything here has its own pair, but next you know, you see that the cellos have 3, and you may be wondering, why does that have 3? Well, it's because the cello is doing something called harmony. I have harmonized the melody, and it may look like it's repeating the same notes, but it does work very well with the melody. So I basically have harmonized it, and when the melody and the harmony play together, they're supposed to sound very nice. And reason why it's on a cello and not a violin is because you need to be able to differentiate. Okay, I can't talk. You need to be able to tell the difference between what is the melody and what is the harmony. this is an important lesson in music because of how if you ever have a melody and then you have a harmony is supposed to help like grow the melody. It's supposed to help grow the melody. It's supposed to bring it out. And it works so well that I can't really believe that it actually works so well. And plus I just realized that I should add a little bit of sausage fattener in order to get a fatter sound out of this cello. Sausage fattener may look like a silly tool, but it actually is very nice. Okay, well I just brightened up the sound quite a bit, so now let me come over here to see in the mix to see how it fares. Works very well.